morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All right, guys. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
There you go. A little better there. So, hello to everyone here today, and also to all the individuals who will be listening to this on PayTalk. Okay, I can't remember, but you know what I mean. And also the ones who listen to this on streaming, and then of course the ones who may listen to this later on YouTube. And yeah, it's always great to have these all different options for people to be able to have the chance to be able to listen to the message of the Course in Miracles. And also today, I just want to just take a moment also to acknowledge the fact that yesterday was World AIDS Day. And so something that's been around for quite a while, and just want to honor all the ones who have been impacted by it, whether they're HIV positive or have AIDS or just been affected at some point in their lives. Just want to send out loving and healing energy to all of us, because it impacted a lot of communities, and I just want to honor that and recognize that. So today, the Holy Spirit always has their minds of what they feel like, I'm guided to talk about. And so today I was guided to talk about, I am not a victim. And the interesting thing is, when I first started with the course, that was one of the more hardest lessons that I had to actually deal with. I am not a victim, because I'm like, how can I say that I'm not a victim in a society that constantly perpetrates this, on us? And especially as someone who's a person of color, who's Black and African American, and recognizing everything that has happened to us, it's like, how can I not take that in? And so studying the course, it was so hard when that lesson kept coming up. I'm like, okay, wait a minute, there's no way. I know I'm a victim, I know I am. All these things are happening to me. And to be able to look at that and be able to address that as a course student over the years has been, challenging, but yet rewarding, on the end. But just something that I had to acknowledge that was one of the toughest things that I had to do. And so then I was thinking like, okay, fine. And then as far as I knew, at least at this point in my life, I felt like things are going pretty well. I have not been feeling that much, regarding feeling like a victim or anything like that. But I guess Holy Spirit thought differently. I guess Holy Spirit thought that there are still some things that I need to work on and still to look at and to be able to heal, regarding that aspect of it. So I was guided to talk about that today. And so I decided also just to take just curious of what the dictionary says about a victim. And what does it say is one that is acted on and usually adversely affected by a force or an agent. So, for instance, thinking about the school systems, how people feel victim of the social systems because of the way they set things up and the way that, may not be in line with what you think it should be. And so people feel like, okay, I'm a victim because of the way, all these things are put upon us regarding that aspect of it. But it also says something like this, which I thought was very intriguing. Such as a person who has come to feel helpless and passive in the face of misfortune or ill treatment. A person who has come to feel helpless and passive in the face of misfortune or ill treatment. That surprised me. I have to admit, I never thought of victim as that way. Recognizing or realizing that a lot of it, when we are in that state of mind, we are feeling a sense of helplessness. That is where it's coming from. And I was just like, whoa. That is so poignant and such a grasping of understanding what that impact really is. And so it got me to think and to just reflect on all the times that I felt, victimized, or just that other people may have felt victimized, and the impact that they may have on them. And the thing that was coming up for me that I recognize is, as I mentioned earlier, I was, honoring, World AIDS Day. It has made me reflect upon the time when it first came about, when HIV and AIDS was first, discovered. Of course, initially it was not, called HIV and AIDS at that time. It was called more like, gay, related immune disease or deficiency. It was called GRID. So they wasn't sure exactly what it was, and they was calling it gay cancer. It was like all these things that they were calling, but they were not sure, but they knew that it was impacting this community and that people were dying very quickly. And then I was just thinking about that time period and just wondering what they were going through. If they were feeling like victims, like, okay, why is this happening to our community? Why is all my friends and all my family dying? Why would God or someone put something like that onto us? Just imagine how potentially helpless that they were feeling at that time. And so it just got me just to think about that and what that was probably like for them during that time period. But then, as we know, of course, tells us, I am not a victim of this world that I see. So we're not a victim of the world that I see, and I'm thinking like, okay, how did they probably possibly go back and realize and to deal with that? And the thing is, what it is, they recognize that, okay, yes, this was brought into our community, but it's not going to define who we are. We are going to find a way to be able to deal with this and in a more healing and loving way. Do whatever steps that are necessary to do that. And we're fortunate here in San Francisco. It's because of all the work that we have done, it has decreased. HIV is not as high as it was when it first, came about. And it just made me realize that because if we recognize that we're not victims and recognize and see things differently, we can make the decision and we can make the choice to see things differently. We can make the choice to not stay stuck in that, but yet find a way to heal ourselves even around something that appears to be devastating to a community who lost so much early on in the epidemic. The other thing I recognize, and that I had, one of the reasons why I also had trouble with this whole concept of I am not a victim, is because we live in a society that constantly brings us stuff that impacts people and community that it's hard to not see or understand the reason why they're not victims. Whether that was during the times of slavery, whether that was during the time of the Holocaust, whether that's doing with all these shootings that continues to happen now currently in our society, whether that had to do with people getting raped or sexually abused. So knowing all that happens, how can we not understand the reason why people may feel like a victim? Because of all these things that society, that this world brings on to us. But as course students, we know and we understand that there's other ways that we can look at it. Not deny that things like that happen to us, or happen to our community, or happening to our society, but being able to look at it in a different way. Being able to take it to another level of like saying, okay, yes, this has happened in our society, but what can I do differently to shift that? And that is something that I'm learning how to do now in my internship, because I'm working with kids. And I remember when I went through the interview and then when they gave us the orientation, they said at some point, you're going to have to do a report to the Child Protective Service. I'm like, nah, that's not going to happen, because I've worked with kids before that never have, but it is happening. And then me realizing my own stuff coming up regarding that, of recognizing this is happening to young kids, and realizing that I cannot see them as victims. Realizing that I have to see them who they really are. The Course says, how can I be the victim of a world that can be completely undone if I so choose? And for me, what I realize and what I am recognizing is that I have to get to the point when I'm working with these kids is to help them see the love and the beauty that is actually in them. And coming from that, from a spirit and loving place, not coming from my ego, and not coming from me seeing them as victims. Learning how to be able to do that. It's not easy because my ego mind wants to come in and my ego mind wants me to, just go into that all negativity and all that. But I realize, no, that's not the route to go. If we don't want to be a victim, or we don't want to see people as a victim, we call spirit in to help guide us, to help us see these individuals differently. And this also brought up for me, working in this field and working with, these kids, how did I get my own self, my own past, and had to own up and recognize, when I was in my 20s, when I was taken advantage of by a doctor because I was part of an asthma study, and it was something that they wanted to find out about new medication of how to help people who have asthma so they can be able to have, breathe better and all that stuff. And so I participated in a research study because I've done research for a long time in my life, working here at the department, so it's my way of giving back. And also because I'm an asthmatic, I'm like, yes, if there's a new medication to be able to come out, so I participated in it. And so I went in for the interview and all that stuff, and then during that interview, the doctor took advantage of me. It went way beyond than what they were supposed to do. And I remember at that time of the shame and the guilt and the victimism that I was feeling. Because I felt, oh, wait a minute, how can this happen to me? I'm someone in my 20s who has a pretty good sense of who I am, but yet this happened, to me. And then had to realize, even though I wasn't studying the course, that I had to not stay stuck in that victimhood. And that I was guided to report this doctor because it did not feel right. And then later on, finding out that this doctor, he was a white doctor, that he was taking advantage of all young black men that he was seeing. So it brought it to light. And so that gave me the chance to heal, but it also gave those individuals who that happened to as well to heal, because we brought it to light. So that's not allowing me at that point to stay stuck in my own victimhood. And this was before the course came into my life. And it just made me realize, wow, it was already in me, an understanding of the importance of us to not stay in that mind, to acknowledge it, as I said, but move on from it in a more healthy and healing way. The Course also says, I have invented the world I see. We have control of inventing the world that we see. I have the control, the opportunity to be able to see things the way that I know that they should be seen. And they're being seen in a way because of the Holy Spirit of being able to guide me. And it reminded me of also another incident that happened to me just a few years ago, where I was robbed at gunpoint, right here in this alleyway. Getting off of work, getting ready to go to a softball game for a co-ed, and just realizing at that time also what was coming up for me, because I was a lot much older, at that time. At that time, I was a course student, and then having someone validate me, to come from behind and just experience what that was like. Well, once again, the Course was able to help me get through that. It took a while. It took about 3 or 4 years before I was able to walk in that alleyway again, because of my fear of what happened. And as we know, Spirit works in mysterious ways of helping us get through things when we're ready. And for me, a good friend of mine wanted to go to this place where they sell tacos, because he really liked it, and it's in the alleyway. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to go in there. And he was like, trust me, it will be okay. And then that was the start of my healing, of being able to now go in the alleyway. Trusting the Spirit, turning it over, and listening to that voice that is always there. And that's what the Course did, that's what the Spirit did. It's like, yes, Vincent, go, trust Him. He will be there for you. And it gave me the chance to be able to heal that situation and not stay stuck in it. Yes, it took a few years before I felt comfortable enough to be able to do it. But I was able to finally get to the point of feeling like, yes, it's okay. And when we think about it, everything that happens in this world, as we know, at least in my mind, happens for a reason. It happens because it gives us the opportunity to learn from the things that happens to us, to learn how society is, but yet be able to look at it, take a step back, and actually see the beauty that actually really do exist. And that we don't have to stay in our victimhood. That we don't have to buy into it. It is not an easy task. I know for me it was not an easy task. But I know I have learned, and I am paying attention to it. And it made me realize that when I said earlier is I didn't understand the reason why the Course wanted me to talk about this. I think it's because the Course realized I had some significant things that happened in my life that I never really talked about, that I never really shared, kept it among just a few people and just kept it to it. But in order for us to heal this world that we are in, we need to share those experiences of what we can do to get out of things that appears to be challenging, the things that appears to cause us harm, things that appears just to see us and appear in dark spaces. And that's the beauty for me of studying the Course, because it's given me the opportunity to do these things, to be able to look at it and see things differently, to understand, even though early on it was hard for me to believe that I am not a victim of this world, because I am not. Even though I know there's a lot going on in this society, even though I know gay bashing and all that stuff still exists, and racism and still exists, but I don't have to buy into it. I don't have to be a victim to it. And for me, that's the key. And for me, that's how I continue to evolve, and that's how I continue to help other people evolve as well, to be able to see that differently. I could see peace instead of this. The Course has taught me that I am not a victim, that I'm a loving, healing individual, that each and every one of us is. And that is my talk for today.